Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey. And as you can see, there's a lot of stuff to talk about today, because I want to talk about the Spanish artist Jordi Bernet. There's even one art book about his stuff and a lot of comics, huge books and more smaller ones. And maybe we start with this one, which contains stories he did together with one E.S. Arboli, which is Enrique Sanchez Arboli. I bought this book just because of size comparison purposes and maybe some masochistic strain in my soul, because this really hurts here. You should not reproduce Jordi Bernet's art in this tiny size here. But you can see here already the drawings have a real Alex Tothian quality to them. So here the size is right, but not the way of reproduction, because Jordi Bernet's comics in color looks not bad, but later on when I will show you black and white examples of these stories here, you will see that that is the real deal here. Story-wise, these stories don't aim to be original, but to be a very good and poignant version of crime stories set in the USA of the Prohibition times. He's a real bastard, Luca Torelli, aka Torpedo, a hitman, with a ladies' man in a way, even though he's really dumb and very naive. So the ladies are usually way above his head, even though there are a lot of violence against them. But I think this is just a portrait of the times back then, and in the end they have usually the upper hand. You can argue that these stories are a bit always the same and with foreseeable plots, but I have a lot of fun with them and don't think of them as one-note stories here, because these characters are so damn funny, and his women, to be honest with you, are really nicely drawn. There's a lot of humor in it, and of course senseless or not so senseless violence, I don't know. It's some kind of satirical portrait of the Prohibition times. So, to my knowledge, these are the 5 albums you can get in German, but most of you won't be interested in these too much. Here's another one from Macau Extra, and here we have already the real deal in black and white. So I hope you can understand why I think of Jordi Bernet as one of my favorite artists, comic artists. Even though some may say that he only draws a limited amount of different characters, and again, especially his women look pretty alike, to be honest, just with different hairstyles. Even though he is able to draw very different women, he comes always back to a certain type of women, I think just because he likes them the most, which is very understandable. And same with his men. He has a certain amount of characters that he uses very efficiently, but repeatedly in a way. So, but that's maybe the only flaw, if you will, of Jordi Bernet that I can find. else I love almost each and every line of his artwork. So, because I really like Torpedo in black and white, I bought these books here from Fantagraphics. 1, 2, 3 are pretty hard to get in the meantime. Almost sold out, I think. So I just got volume 4 and 5. Fantastic stuff, I think. If you never have read anything by jordi bernet before, I would highly recommend to start with some Torpedo story, because they're all very enjoyable. Quickly followed by this book here, Light and Bold. I think I've shown you this already in one of my videos about comics written by Carlos Trillo. But this is drawn by jordi bernet as well, so this is enough reason for me to show you this book, because I really like the art in it. Story-wise, it's a bit silly, but it literally starts with a beautiful female and centers around her. She's a special agent because of a treatment. She's made invulnerable. She can't be really hurt, and that helps her relationship that evolves with this guy here, some brutish beast of a man called Bold. Nobody touches her like he does, and she really likes this, and yeah, really light-hearted book for adults ensues, and a real fun read. And again, you have this classic artwork here, which I can't get enough of. Typical pose of jordi bernet's characters here. So, fun stuff. And a bit in the same vein, even though it's a fantasy story, a bit longer, 3 European albums about this woman called Sarvan in a post-apocalyptic setting. Feels more undergroundy and wordy in some places, even though you don't really need the words to get the story. For the most part, it's just about this freaked out, whacked out, weird future world, which sets the status way back when to the Stone Age, just with some spaceships in it. Sarvan falls soon in love with one of these guys from outer space, and a lot of the story is devoted to the question, will he screw her or not, because he here is somehow a bit impotent. He can't deliver what she craves. Yeah, this is in a way a one-trick pony here, of course, and one-note kind of story, despite of having a lot of facets visually. And jordi bernet really has a feast in drawing all these crazy details of a whacked-out future world, as I said it before. So, the story by Antonio Segura, especially his wording, aged not very well. He's really trying too much. It has a very high tone, lots of pathos. I really couldn't swallow that, so I found myself skipping a lot of these caption boxes and speech bubbles, because the story really is not worth that amount of words and text. But jordi bernet's art is, of course, fascinating and fantastic. Don't know about English publication of these comics here. What I can tell you is that these sarvan comics go real for very cheap on eBay. At least I don't know what I paid for these, maybe for euros each or so, which is very affordable. This is a one-off story, mörderische Leidenschaft, murderous passion, but with characters that should look already familiar to you, even just by my video here. And it's about a not so intelligent boxer, Luca Torelli as a boxer, if you will, falling in love with this woman. She's by far the most intelligent person in the whole comic here. The most beautiful, of course. Yeah. Stuck with the old black and white format with this book here, with this huge tome here. Earlier in my video, I dissed the German publisher Crosscult for having done a lot of stuff wrong in the past, at least in my opinion. Well, this tome here, they did almost everything right. Andrax, or I should pronounce it German, andrax, because the author here is a German, Peter Wichmann. I have some other books of him, Hombre, it's a Western comic here. He's maybe the worst comic writer in the world. I don't know how he was able to work with this amazing talent, like Jordi bernet, and Hombre is also drawn by one amazing artist. So I kept my books there. But his stories are convoluted, wordy, haven't almost never aged very well. He was the CEO, you would say today, of the biggest German publisher way back then, the Rolf Kauka Verlag. So this is maybe an explanation why he could work with, for instance, Jordi bernet. But poor Jordi bernet, he has to put up with the scripts that I only can imagine how bad they maybe were. Interestingly enough, he is not, another guy isn't mentioned here, because I looked it up in the internet, and seemingly Jordi bernet used the help of some other writer, a Spanish writer, to work with him for these comics here. So it's a bit strange why they haven't mentioned him here, and no place in this book here. This is by far the best stuff that I have ever read from Peter Wichmann. Maybe just because the premise, we have this sportsman here in the Olympic Games, he's transported by some experiment of horror in a future post-apocalyptic world, and therefore everything was possible to do with this character, and you can let him fight against dinosaurs or vampires or weird aliens, and literally everything that is possible in comicdom is thrown in his direction and used up for short adventures that are concluded after 40 pages or so, and could be published in the European album format, but then had no ramifications whatsoever. After that, it's all more or less to 2.0 again. But what can I tell you? Jordi bernet's art makes me really, pulled me through this book here, and it's not as wordy as other stuff from Mr. Wichmann. So it's really enjoyable, especially since I have a soft spot for andrax. I've read some of the stories way back then as a kid. I think in color, I can't remember really, but I knew about some of the stories. I've read them when I maybe was 12 years old, and very and I remember being very impressed by them. So, and therefore I just had to get this book here, regardless of Mr. Wichmann. So now, and last but not least, this art book here, El Arte de Bernet. It's, as you can guess, a Spanish book, but hey, I don't buy art books because of their text. I buy them because of their art, the reprinted art. And here the signature move of a lot of characters of Jordi Bernet. And here we have light and bold, and this is even more a bit adult orientated. So you will see a bit more nudity in it. But you see the amazing, energetic art and moves of Jordi Bernet here on the paper. Beautiful art. Yes, some kind of self-portrait. Yeah, I haven't planned for anything special, but just wanted to to flip through this book here, just to give you an impression. And it's really highly recommended to pick this book here up. It's published by Evolution Comics, by the way. Yeah, they're Evolution Comics. And you should not have no difficulty to find this online. I really like the contrast of defined lines in the face and where everything is important, and here on the hands, and more loose strokes. And I guess you have not seen a King Kong character as careful as on this drawing here by Jordi Bernet. This leads to another series. I'm really aching to get my fingers on Kraken. This seems to be not translated in German or English, so this is some stuff I really want to get my fingers on in the future. I think you will recognize that they censored her top a bit to cover her nipples. If these are the kinds of details that you're interested about. This is from another series of him, Clara de Noche, about some prostitute. More in this funny comics vein. I have not read these stories. And I think they are maybe not really my cup of tea, but if you're interested in this kind of stuff, go for it. Because, yeah, more Clara de Noche stuff. So, yeah, that's for today, I think. That's it. And thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.